What a phenomenal worship experience today. What a wonderful time we had at the Park Church as we celebrated Fathers today. And what a dynamic message that was preached by our pastor entitled Choosing Life. Listen, what I want you to do is take this opportunity, gather everyone that you know. You don't want to miss this message. You don't want to miss what the Lord is saying here in this word today. Let them know that we're going live and we're getting ready to hear a word from the Lord, because when God is everything, He's in everything and He can do everything. It's a reason. That's a good reason for you to choose life. So let's go hear what the Lord has to say through our pastor as he preaches part 1 of this series entitled Choosing Life.
I want to direct our attention to Psalm 55, and those of you who don't mind standing for the reading of the Word of God, we ask that you'll stand now. And I want to thank all of you who went down to Shelby, North Carolina on this past Sunday. We had a powerful experience. You know, we used to be on the road a lot, and then things slowed down a little bit. But we got to get on the road again, and it was a wonderful experience, powerful time, and I appreciate all of you who were there. This is a psalm of David. It reads, "Listen to my prayer, O God. Do not ignore my cry for help. Please listen and answer me, for I am overwhelmed by my troubles. My enemies shout at me, making loud and wicked threats. They bring trouble on me and angrily hunt me down. My heart pounds in my chest. The terror of death assaults me. Fear and trembling overwhelm me, and I can't stop shaking. Oh, that I had wings like a dove, that I would fly away and rest. I would fly far away to the quiet of the wilderness. How quickly I would escape. Far from the wild storm of hatred. Confuse them, Lord, and frustrate their plans, for I see violence and conflict in the city. Its walls are patrolled day and night against invaders, but the real danger is wickedness within the city. Everything is falling apart. Threats and cheating are rampant in the streets. It's not an enemy who taunts me. I could bear that. It's not my foes who so arrogantly insult me. I could have hidden from them. Instead, it is you, my equal, my companion and close friend. What good fellowship we once enjoyed as we walked together to the house of God. Let death stalk my enemies. Let the grave swallow them alive, for evil makes its home within them. But I will call on God, and the Lord will rescue me. Morning, noon, and night I cry out in my distress, and the Lord hears my voice. He ransoms me and keeps me safe from the battle waged against me, though many still oppose me. God, who has ruled forever, will hear me and humble them. But my enemies refuse to change their ways. They do not fear God. As for my companion, he betrayed his friends. He broke his promises. His words are as smooth as butter, but in his heart is war. His words are as soothing as lotion, but underneath are daggers. Give your burdens to the Lord, and he will take care of you. He will not permit the godly to slip and fall. You, O God, will send the wicked down to the pit of destruction. Murderers and liars will die young, but I'm trusting you to save me. Thus far, the word of the Lord. You may be seated. This is the beginning of a series entitled Choosing Life. Choosing Life. Many years ago, Dr. Charles Booth told the story about a woman who had attempted suicide. and spent time in a mental institution. After coming out of the hospital, she heard Mount Olivet's radio broadcast, and upon hearing the broadcast, she decided to visit the church. And after 2 years of attendance, she told Dr. Booth that she had been attending for 2 years. While he may not have thought much about that statement, she then told him that every day she woke up with the thought of taking her life. She came to church to see if he would say something that would make her want to live. That story resonated greatly with me because that recognition of where I was as a teenager, the role that the church played in my life at that time, was and continues to be the guiding factor of my ministry. My doctoral project centered on that. Regardless of the sermon that I've preached over the course of these years, I've sought to end with the hope of Jesus Christ, such that all who hear will want to live. The past 3 weeks have been filled with grief absorption and reflection, which has only intensified my desire for you who hear me to leave wanting and choosing to live. Our current age is unlike any in recent memory. The forces and factors that create such an anxiety-ridden culture are many. In many ways, the challenges confronting us are not new ones. They are as old as time itself. However, the advance of technology, 24-hour news cycles, and social media have shrunk the world, collapsed time, and erased any distance that previously provided an emotional buffer and pause that allowed you to absorb, to reflect, and recover. Now, those of us my age and older, when you had a fight at school or a fight on the playground, you went home and there was distance between you and that fight. And then when you would go back to school the next day or back on the playground the next day, it was as if nothing had happened. But that is not the case in today's society, where, number one, the fight is going to be viral, and everybody's going to have something to say about. There is no distance that gives you the opportunity to absorb and pause and reflect and recover. Algorithms are set to hype and heighten hysteria and outright hatred towards those who are different than you. And that doesn't even start to look at the experience of an extinction-level pandemic, the very real warming of the planet that threatens to engulf coastal areas with massive flooding and has set in motion meteorological catastrophes of fire and wind and tornadoes, hurricanes, tsunamis, and earthquakes with frightening regularity. A mixture of xenophobia, that is fear of other people, nativism and nationalism, along with authoritarian propensities, is sweeping across nations, creating global insecurity and uncertainty. All-out war is where we are on the brink in the Middle East, as Israel bombed Iran, and Iran has bombed them back. And now nations of the West and nations of the East are picking sides. Well, let's just bring it closer to home. What has only been 5 months of this current presidency has seemed like 5 years and has set in motion damage that will take 30 to 40 years to undo. A toothless Supreme Court and a cowardly Republican-controlled Congress has given way to an authoritarian president who sees himself wielding imperial power as opposed to constitutionally bound power. Each action taken continues to lower the bar and lessen the rigidity of the checks and balances inherent within the three separate but co-equal branches of government. And many people of color, Black, Latino, and Asian brothers and sisters who voted for the current president are discovering that they purchased fool's gold as executive orders are issued which directly impact them and their loved ones. Did they not think that he meant them too when he was talking about what he was going to do and naming the groups that he was going to go after? Did they think that they were somehow exempt? That it meant everybody but them? And while many of us are tempted to say, I told you so, saying it doesn't erase the fact that we are all in this together. If one studies American history carefully, one will see that the America to which the president wants to return is not the America of George Bush or Ronald Reagan. No, he wants to go further back to where America was in the very beginning. An America for whom life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness was for white male landowners, to whose whims everybody else was subject. The meritocracy to which he and Secretary Hegseth and Stephen Miller and others refer is that of colonial times. And when they say those of merit, they're not talking about you. They really mean white men, not even white women, white men. You see, that America was not built with the safety, sanity, security, and success of women and people of color in mind. It was not built that way. It was built with our dehumanization, demeaning, and docility and despair in mind. It sought to break our desire to live, disrupt our forming healthy families, and destroy the sense of self while capitalizing on our brilliance with agriculture and stonemasonry and architecture and midwifery. Survival, sanity, safety, and security were daily fights. Just staying sane, staying alive was a measure of success. And as quiet as it's kept, that's still the case. Sanity, safety, security, survival are daily fights, particularly if you're black, and sure enough, if you're male. The constant and consistent pressure to protect, prove yourself, provide, and all the while not provoke is akin to salmon swimming upstream with bears waiting to catch them for food. And therefore, the issue of mental health and spiritual well-being is paramount because of the current crisis in which we find ourselves. I want you to consider the following statistics provided by my research assistant, ChatGPT. I said, ChatGPT, I need some statistics. And this is what my research assistant provided me. In 2023, of the 49,000 plus suicides committed in the United States, 80% of them were male. The age-adjusted rate of suicide among non-Hispanic black males is 14.6 for every 100,000 people. That is 14 out of every 100,000 people, black males, are killing themselves. Age 15 to 24, in age 15 to 24, suicide is the second leading cause of death. And among the key factors cited are systemic racism and minority stress, childhood adversity and trauma, mental illness and substance abuse, access to lethal means being firearms, economic hardship and community conditions, lack of culturally competent mental health care, isolation and lack of support, exposure to violence and incarceration, and disrupted family ties. When you look at those statistics on this Father's Day, I got to commend the brothers who've been holding this thing down as fathers, as positive male figures in the lives of those connected by blood as well as those connected by call. Come on, we got to celebrate the brothers just for staying alive. It's not easy holding everything together. The pressure that comes from so many different directions all at the same time. And unfortunately, as men, we don't have the natural connectional instinct that women have to share and support. You know, women, they reach out, they connect, just be connected. Right? They connect just to be connected, and they can both be talking at the same time. Ain't nobody listening to the other. They just talking, but the talk is the connection. Get with me, women. Y'all know I'm right. That's because that's in part how they're wired, but it wasn't wired within us. Because as the protector, we had to be on our guard for anything and everything. A hermeneutic of suspicion and guardedness is wired within us, but taken to its extreme, it renders us isolated and closed, carrying weight too big for any one person's shoulders. But we do it, don't we? And we do it, Keith, the best that we know how. But the question arises, what happens when we can't? What happens when it gets to be too much? What happens when you reach the point when just the smallest thing added to what you're already carrying can cause everything to stumble and fall? What happens when it's like a jungle sometimes? It makes you wonder how you keep them going under. It's like a jungle sometimes. It makes me wonder how I keep them going under. Don't push me because I'm close to the, I'm trying hard not to. What happens when it's like that? What happens when you get to that place? How can you want and choose to live when you feel like a shrinking dot? And everything around you is growing larger and larger, and the weight is heavier and heavier. Talk back to me, brothers, if you know what I'm talking about. I needed to look at the life of another brother who had to carry a whole lot. His call and burden wasn't just that of carrying the fate of a family. It was that of carrying the fate of a nation. The promises of God were carried through his bloodline. The path to that place and the path in that place was fraught with multiple changes and challenges, some of which he handled well and others which he did not. And yet in all of it, he is remembered as a man after God's own heart. Whatever was going on and wherever he found himself, there was something within him that kept him after God. In other words, there were no highs too high and no lows too low for him not to be after God. God was everything, and God was in everything. And you see, friends, when God is everything You're able to see God in everything. I want you to hear that. When God is everything to you, you are able to see God in everything. And the call to maturity in God is moving beyond seeing God as a means to everything to seeing God as being everything. It's moving from seeing God as the means to a job, to this, to that, to seeing God as everything, such that he's before whatever you're trying to get. He's before whatever you're trying to reach. He's before whoever you're trying to become. He's everything to you. And when God is everything to you, such that if you lost the job, you don't lose it because God is everything. If you lose the status, if you lose friends, you don't lose your mind because God is still everything. When God is everything, you see God in everything. Psalm 139, help me out. You've searched me, Lord, and you know me. You know when I sit and you know when I rise. You perceive my thoughts from afar. You discern my going out and my lying down. You are familiar with all my ways. Before a word is on my tongue, you, Lord, you know it completely. You hem me in behind, and before you lay your hand upon me, such knowledge is too wonderful for me, too lofty for me to attain. Where can I go from your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence? If I go up to heavens, you are there. If I make my bed in the depths, you are there. If I take the wings of the morning of the dawn, if I settle on the far side of the sea, even there your hand will guide me and your right hand will hold me fast. If I say surely darkness will hide me and light become night around me, even the darkness will not be too dark to you. The night will shine like the day, for darkness is as light to you. God is everything, and God is in everything. And when you see God as being everything, you see God in everything, and you are able to set yourself in God's direction. That is to say, when life turns you upside down and inside out, you still know that God is God and that God is in your turnover, and God will be there to bring you back again. And therefore you set your mind in God's direction. You're not looking for people, you're looking for God. You're not looking for a place, you're looking for God, because God is everything. That's what it was for David. God was everything, and therefore God is in everything. And therefore, when life has upset his apple cart, David searches after God. And in this particular case, he's on the run from his son Absalom and his trusted advisor Ahithophel. The background of this is in 2 Samuel chapter 15, verse 31, all the way through the 16th chapter. David describes his mental and emotional state, which gives me the first clue. If you're going to choose life, you got to get real with yourself. Get real with yourself. David's self-awareness and transparency are on full display. Now, 2 Samuel 15 and 16 tell us what happened to David. It's in this psalm that David speaks what and how he feels in what is happening to him. You see, friends, there's always what happened to you, and there's how you feel about what happens to you. And those two are not always in alignment. One impacts the other. David's talking about how he feels about what happens to him. Listen to him. He says, I'm overwhelmed by my troubles. My heart pounds in my chest. The terror of death assaults me. Fear and trembling overwhelm me. I can't stop shaking. And that word picture for overwhelmed means to be tossed about. It describes a restlessness that's akin to roaming about aimlessly. The word picture for troubles is that of being stirred about. He's severely agitated. His blood pressure is elevated as his heart pounds in his chest. He's emotionally assaulted by terror and fear. He is gripped by fear and feels totally eclipsed by the situation. The word picture for overwhelmed in verse 5 means that he is concealed by. That which he faces is so dominant that he can no longer recognize himself independent of it. Has that ever been your situation? Has there ever been a situation in your life that has been so dominant that you could not recognize yourself outside of it? Overwhelmed. It obscures him. It swallows him. It's to such a degree that he can't stop shaking. Its presence and predominance is such that escape is a considerable option. He says, I want to be as far from it as possible. That's why he says, oh, that I had wings like a dove, then I would fly away and be at rest. I would fly away to the quiet of the wilderness. I need for you to understand the wilderness ain't quiet. But he's so taken that he thinks that he can find some quiet in a place that ain't quiet. He just wants to be out of what he's in. And therefore, he's willing to jump out of the frying pan into the fire. Has that ever been you? Anywhere but here. And then there was worse than here. That's what David, he pauses and resumes with verse 8 saying, how quickly I would escape, spiritually shaken and mentally torn and emotionally battered. David desires escape in need of relief, and they ain't got no weed back there. But if you know David's story, you find that David ends up facing what he wants to flee. He resists the pull towards self-destruction. He discovers that his answer is not in fleeing, but in facing. You see, if you're going to choose life when you feel like you right on the edge, the first step is to get real with yourself. It's to be self-aware and attuned to how and what you're feeling. It's admitting to yourself where you are and how you are. It is to come squarely with what you're considering and determining that that is not the best way. Permanent flight from the painful aspects of life is not the solution. There is a better way. It's not fleeing, it's facing. It's not escaping, it's courageously confronting. It is in David's self-awareness and honesty that David takes the next step. When you get real with yourself, then you can do this next thing. Get real with God about everything. Turn to your neighbor and say, everything. David realizes that the internal struggle with which he finds himself is more than flesh and blood. This isn't just mental. This is spiritual. And he pours himself out to God. He says, listen to my prayer, oh God. Do not ignore my cry for help. Please listen and answer me. You know, there are times when you can pray, Lord, I love you. I need you to hear me. Lord, you're a good God. But when you feel surrounded, when life is hounding you, when you are at the edge, you need to cry, Lord, help me. Pay attention to me. Look my way. Answer me. He is direct and he is imperative. God, listen to me. Don't you hang up on me. Don't you put me on hold. I need your attention, and I need it right now. Not another minute, not another second, not another hour, not another day. I need you right now. The terror of death assaults me. Fear and trembling are overwhelming me. Everything is falling apart. I just need somebody who can testify when you are overwhelmed, when you are on the edge, there is no place for pretense with God. It is not time for you to be polishing up things, putting makeup on it. No, you need to be real with God, knowing that you can take the rawest and the ugliest to him. This is a lament psalm. It is a complaint. It is a psalm. It's got some edge to it. Ain't nothing dressed up or pretty about it. It's raw. It's got edge because David is on the edge. And getting real with God about everything is growing in your authenticity before God. It's growing in intimacy such that you don't have to dress it up or make it sound pretty. How you gonna make something look pretty when it's ugly? David puts it this way: I pour out my complaints before God and tell him all my troubles. Tell your neighbor everything. You see, when you're on the edge, your words have some edge on them. What's wrong with you? I'm on the edge. Because when you're on the edge, your words got some edge on them. That's why sometimes I just don't say anything because I know my words are going to have edge because I'm on the edge. And so I got to wait until I get back. Now I can talk. Because if I was talking on the edge, what's wrong with you? But here's the thing. God can take your edge because God knows you're on the edge. And that's why you got to get real with God about everything. I mean, not just when you're in the center, but when you way on the edge, you got to get real with God. David gets real with him. Look at, he says, but I call on God. Morning, noon, and night, I cry out in my distress. He constantly and persistently pours himself out to God. He is not ashamed of pouring himself out to God more than one time because the matter is too pressing. Morning, noon, and night. He says, I cry out in my distress, and God hears my voice. He pours himself out to God, confident that God hears him. He is assured that God is listening to him. He is certain that God is taking notice of him. Maybe he remembered Hagar's testimony in the wilderness when she was thinking about ending life itself, but she discovered that God hears. Maybe he remembered God telling Moses, I have heard their cries by reason of their taskmasters. Maybe he remembered Hannah's testimony when she said, I asked the Lord to give me this boy and he granted my request. You got to get real with God about everything. Don't leave anything out because he knows everything and he wants you to trust him with everything. I'm trying to help somebody. I'm trying to cancel some appointments because God is trying to tell you you don't need to leave anything from me because I know everything. And I'm just waiting to see if you will open up that box and let me into that room and trust me with that thought, with that situation. Will you tell me everything? Because I already know everything. But there's something else here that may go unnoticed. It is get real before other people. This psalm is a maskil, and a maskil is a teaching psalm. In other words, this psalm is not a psalm of private devotion. It's a psalm of public reflection. It's a song for public edification. This psalm, while private in inspiration, is for public meditation. Let's say David says, I'm composing this not just for myself, but I'm composing it for others and in the presence of others, for others to be able to benefit by it. You see, sometimes the path to choosing life, especially when you're on the edge and when you're overwhelmed, is not just getting real with yourself and getting real with God, but it's getting real before other people. It's being able to say to other people, this is where I am. This is how I am. This is what I'm feeling. This is what I've been thinking. I'm doing the best I can with what I have and where I am. But where I am is not where I want to be. Because where I am is not my best, not my prettiest, not my most together. It's when people ask you, how you doing? Blessed. When I'm burdened, I'm overwhelmed, I feel surrounded, I'm shaken, I'm afraid, I feel like I failed, I missed the mark. You got to be able to get real with other people. Because here it is, getting real is the first step to getting free. And for somebody, it's time for you to take the step to get free. And what that means is you got to take the mask off. You got to drop the front. You got to put the halo down and just be real. Because everybody needs somebody and some people with whom they can be real. And sometimes it means getting with a counselor. It means getting with a therapist, getting with a spiritual director. It means getting with a coach. It means getting together with a small group and accountability partner. But you got to be able to find somebody with whom you can just be real and therefore free yourself. Get real in the presence of do you have anybody that you can just say, you know, I'm really at this point, and whatever that point is, share it with them. Because you got to be able to get out of your head. Because it's dangerous when just you is there. You got to be able to get out. And so it's getting real with yourself, getting real with God, getting real before others. But then look for God to be real in everything and for everything. Look again in verse 16. David, after he elucidates all that's going on, he says, but I will call on God, and the Lord will rescue me. And then verse 18, he says, he ransomed me and keeps me safe from the battle waged against me, though many still oppose me. There is a subtle shift in David's expression. He moves from saying what the Lord will do to what the Lord is doing. David's faith is being realized. The Lord is responding. As the Lord listens, the Lord is responding, because when you make God everything and you see God in everything and you get real with him about everything, you can trust him to answer you for everything. Because you know God promises to respond to you. And God promises, call upon me in the day of trouble and I will deliver you. He shall call upon me, and I will answer him. I will be with him in trouble. I will deliver him and honor him. With long life, I will satisfy him and show him my salvation. You can count on God to respond. In fact, the response of the Lord occurs as David prays. While David prays, the help is coming. While David calls on God, the answer is being given. In the midst of David pouring himself out to God, God is pouring into David. And that's an important realization, especially when you are on the edge. Because there's a tendency to be so focused on what is against you, what is hurting you, what is pressing you, that you don't realize what God is doing in the midst of you, in the midst of the hurt, in the midst of the pressure, in the midst of the pain, in the midst of the disappointment. God is still doing some things. God is keeping you alive. You're alive to feel. You're alive to cry. You're alive to get angry. You're alive to complain. And I know that might seem like a small thing, but what it says is that regardless of how painful life has been, it has not taken you out. Regardless of how deep the hurt may be or how awful the disappointment may be, it has not overridden God's ability to keep you alive. No matter how many times you have been pushed beneath the surface, God has been able to bring your head back above the water. God has been able to keep you afloat. No matter how ugly it has looked or how threatening it has sounded, God has sustained you. God still pours breath in you. God still pumps blood through your veins. God still gives strength and activity to your limbs. God still pours sanity in your mind. God still pours defiance in your spirit. I wonder who can testify right now that when you got real with God, God got real with you. And the more real you got, the more real God became. As you've called out to him, he's responded to you. As you sought him, he was answering you. As a matter of fact, your praying was an indication that God was already acting, because God was the one who gave you the presence of mind to pray. God was the one who gave you the faith to pray. God was the one who gave you the strength to pray. God was the one who prompted you to pray. And in prompting you to pray, and God sustained you while praying. God encouraged you while praying. God protected you while praying. God kept you safe while praying. And when you didn't have any words to be able to pray for yourself, there was the Holy Spirit that was praying on your behalf with pleading and groanings that cannot be uttered. And God knows the mind of the Spirit, because the Spirit prays according to the will of God. And that's what calls you to know that all things work together for the good of those that love God and are the called according to his purpose. God is prompting you even when you don't know what's going on. God is blessing you, and it shall come to pass that before they call, God says, I will answer, and while they are yet speaking, I will hear. You can count on God to respond, because God knows what you need before you ask him, and therefore before you call, he's already answering. Before you speak, he's already hearing. He knows your thoughts are far off, and more than knowing your thoughts, God knows your needs. You can count on God for everything, not based on the content of your cry, but the intent of his purpose. I need somebody to hear me on that one right here. When God responds, it's in respect to his intent, not your content. Oh, Lord. It's not the content of your prayer. It's the intent of God. That's why God prompts you to pray, because God has an intention behind your praying, and the intention preceded your content, because God knew exactly what was going on. That's why it's important that God's intent always has more in mind than my content, because the content of my prayers comes out of the context of my feelings, and the content of my prayer comes out of the context of my limited understanding. But here's the thing, God's intent is within the context not of my understanding, it's in the context of his will for my life. And his will for my life is far more extensive than my current situation. It's more expansive than my present experience. And therefore, when God responds, that's why it's always more than I anticipated, because what I anticipated was based upon what I was seeing. But God said, no, my intent is based upon my will for your life. And my will for your life is always more than you see for yourself. I need somebody to grab a hold of the fact that his intent is further than you can see. It's greater than you can imagine. And I'm glad about that, because at 16 with suicide on my mind, I didn't see what God intended for me at age 61. I'm so glad that God didn't allow my content at 16 to frustrate his intent for me at 61. I need somebody to grab a hold of what I'm saying right now. I don't care how bad it looks for you right now. It can't compare to the intent that God has for your future. Whatever it looks like right now, there is one word to describe it: temporary. It's not going to be this way. Oh, wait, I need for you to slap fire with somebody and say, temporary, baby, temporary, 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 temporary. It's been with me a year, temporary. It's been with me a month, temporary. Don't you realize trouble don't last? Temporary. And that's why you got to get real with God. Sit down for a minute. That's why you got to get real with God. Get real with yourself. Get real before others. Count on God to be real to you. Got to count on him to be real to you and be real for you in everything. But then this last thing is, get rid of the weight. David tells himself, give your burdens to the Lord, and he will take care of you. Sometimes in the secret of your own heart and mind, you've got to exhort yourself. This is not the first time David has done so. Earlier in life, in the city of Ziklag was burned to rubble, and his men wanted to stone him, and they had cried until they could cry no more. The Bible says David encouraged himself in the Lord, his God. And here he is again, providing a self-exhortation. He says, give your burdens to the Lord, and he will take care of you. David says, I can try to carry the weight by myself. I can try to bear it by myself. I can try to resolve it by myself, or I can choose to shift the weight. I can choose to transfer the burden. He remembers what he's saying in Psalm 37, verse 5, commit your way unto the Lord. That word for to commit means to roll it over to the Lord. Because, friends, when the weight of life gets heavy, you need to choose to roll it over to the Lord. You got to choose to give it over to him. And I want to encourage somebody, especially some man, to get rid of the weight, to give your burdens to the Lord. Give what's weighing you down to the Lord. Give what's keeping you up at night to the Lord. Get what's invading your quiet moments to the Lord. Give what's been stealing your joy to the Lord. Give what's been disturbing your peace to the Lord. Release the burden. Release the load. Release the weight. Release the stress. Release the strain. Release the heaviness. Stop carrying what the Lord is already handling. Stop bearing what the Lord is already fighting. Stop stressing over what the Lord is already solving. David says, this is how I'm going to end this psalm. I'm trusting you to save me. Isn't that good news? Rather than me taking the wings of a dove and flying away, God, I'm trusting you to save me. I'm trusting you to take care of me. I'm releasing the burden, and I am trusting you. If I'm going to run, I'm not going to run to anywhere but you, because I've discovered that your name is a strong tower, and the righteous can run in, and they are safe. I've discovered that you are refuge and you are strength. I discovered that in the time of trouble, you will hide me. In the secret of your pavilion will you hide me. You will cover me with your feathers, and under your wings can I trust. That's what happens when you get real with yourself, when you get real with God, when you get real before others, and God will be real to you and for you. Can I pull up just one more man who gives me a good example? I want to pull up the best man I know. I want to pull up a strong man. I want to pull up an exemplary man. I want to pull up one more man. His name is Jesus. He was real with himself. He was real with God, and he was real with others. Look at him in the Garden of Gethsemane. He gets real with the disciples. He says, my soul is exceedingly sorrowful to the point of death. Stay here and watch with me. This is Jesus, storm calming, demon defeating, death defying, water walking Jesus. But Jesus dares to be vulnerable with those around him by saying, my soul is exceedingly sorrowful to the point of death. I need for you to stay here and watch with me. But then he goes a few paces ahead of them, and then he gets real with God and starts talking to God. He says, oh my Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me, but nevertheless not my will but thy will be done. Oh Father, if this cup may not pass away from me except I drink it, thy will be done. You know, I really don't want this. You know, it's really going to be painful for me, but if the only way that I can get by it is to go through it, nevertheless not my will but thy will be done. And after he prays, he waits for the response of his Father, and then he gets up from the praying ground. He's now settled. Now notice that nothing has changed, but he is settled, not because things have changed, but he has changed. Listen to Jesus now. He says, behold, the hour is at hand, and the Son of Man is betrayed into the hands of sinners. Rise and let's be going, because he is at hand who does betray me. Look at this. With nothing having changed, Jesus has changed. Still betrayed, still will be denied, still will be forsaken, still will be lied on, still will be beaten, still will be crucified, but he's changed because God was real to him, and God was real for him, and he knew that the Father is everything, and that the Father is in everything, and therefore he's not by himself, but the Father is with him. The Father is in this, and the Father is in this with him. I need you to slap five with somebody and say, neighbor, the Father is in this, and the Father is in this with you. The Father shows up and shows Jesus some Calvary joy. That's what empowers him to endure the cross and despise the shame, because the Father is everything, and the Father is in everything. He's in the nails, he's in the spear, he's in the piercing, he's in the dying, he's in the burying, he's in the descending into hell and the preaching to the spirits held captive. And because he was in that, he was also in Sunday, early Sunday morning, while it was still dark. The Father was in the resurrection, raising Jesus from the dead with all power in his hands. And that Jesus, he's now Lord, and he is Christ. He is Lord, and he is Savior. He is resurrection, and he is life. He is Alpha and Omega. He is the beginning and the end. He is he that liveth and was alive and was dead, and behold, he's alive forever. forevermore. And he's got the keys of death and hell. And therefore, because of Jesus, I can choose to live because he's in everything and he is everything. Slap five with somebody and say, that's my Jesus. Who is God except the Lord? And who is our God but a solid rock? God is my strong fortress. Then he makes my way perfect. God makes my way complete. I have trouble in my way, but God makes my way complete. I have darkness in my way, but God makes my way complete. I got some pains in my way, but God makes my way complete. I got some enemies in my way, but God makes my way complete. God makes my way full. God makes my way right. God makes my way excellent. I have an anticipation. I have an expectation. And that is God is the joy and the strength of my life. He moves all pain, misery, and strife. He promised to keep me, never leave me, never ever come short of his word. Who but God is my salvation? Who but God is my deliverance? Who but God is my burden bearer? Who but God is my heavy load sharer? Who but God is my way maker? Who but God is my battle fighter? Who but God is my tear dryer? Who but God is always with me? Who but God is before me and behind me, above me and beneath me? Who but God is all around me? Who but God is taking care of me? Who but God is my solid rock? Yeah! Who but God? But if you know him, can you praise him? If you know him, can you thank him? If you know him, can you glorify him for being your God, for being your rock, for being your anchor, for being your way, for being your... Yeah! Yeah! You know, those of you who have ever gone to a bowling alley, and you know, for beginner bowlers, or for those who began and still can't bowl, they have these bumpers that you can put up so that when the ball rolls and it's about to go in the gutter, it's about to go off the edge, there's something that keeps them from going off the edge. And I believe that somebody knows that you were headed for the gutter, but because God was in your life, God was that bumper that... I wonder, can somebody give God a praise for not letting you go into the gutter when you would have gone? Not letting you lose it when you were gonna lose it. Come on. Just tell somebody I was on the edge. God was my bumper. God was my bumper. God was my bumper. God was my bumper. Somebody's about to lose it because you know you could have lost it a long time ago. But God was your bumper. God kept you on the lane. You were going down in the gutter, but God said that ain't your destiny. I got the lane for you. I got stripes for you to do. I got fights for you to do. I got pins for you to make. I ain't gonna let you go down like that.